Hello and welcome to Hello Yellow. I'm delighted to be in the company of Jason Dale, who is the co-founder of You Are Warrior. Thank you so much for joining us, Jace.
Hey Viv, how are you?
I'm really well. I'm so excited to have you here today to share a difficult time in your life, but more so to know that the spirit that you are is just going to be so beneficial to those people who are listening or watching today. So
thanks, Viv. I've known you for a long time. I've known you through different guises in life, socially. I trained you at one point, and now we're here to talk about a really troubling time in my life, which I feel like I'm coming out the other side of strongly. So I look forward to talking to you about that.
So let me just set it up for our listeners and watchers. Jace, I met you. You were a fiery, but you were also running an incredible team building program as well. So very, very active, always very, very positive, always about connecting. And one of the things that I did, I remember I went on a weekend away and we had this fitness program, inspirational speakers, when this was not a thing. We're talking some time ago, and I'll never forget the camaraderie of when we were pulling up tyres up hills and
up a sand dune. And
I'm like, oh, how the hell am I going to do this? But the thing that I loved the most about that program was it didn't matter what your fitness level was. We all came together and we helped everyone over the line together.
That's something I've been passionate about through my family life, my personal life, my sporting life, my work life, is having an energy in mindset. And I like to bring energy to any place that I am. You're the same. I know that about you. But I lost my spark for quite a while, and I fought to get that back. And I feel like I run into people now and they say to me, JD, your spark's back. And I guess I'm here to talk about how I lost my spark and why that happened. And then out of that adversity, I'd like to really lean into it, share vulnerability and help other people. That's what I'm passionate about.
And I think it was really important that I get people to understand the Jason that I knew before your accident. Because you are such a special spirit, and how this has now shaped you to be Jason Dale, maybe 5.0. So tell us about that day. You attended on a chemical fire back in 2018. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I was at Windsor Fire Station like any other night shift, and we turned out to what was come across as a pallet factory on fire in West Footscray. Myself and Kai, my buddy, we went on the truck. We were on a ladder platform, which is a large aerial appliance, and we were tasked to protect a whole heap of factories, and we did an amazing job doing that. But what we didn't know is what was in that factory was a stockpile of illegal chemicals. The guy who stockpiled it had distorted the whole chemical industry, and we were the poor bastards that rocked up and to fight it. And over the next few days, I worked at that fire. And afterwards, my health just deteriorated to a point where I struggled in so many different ways physically. And then over the next period of time, whether it be a year or 2 years, I deteriorated mentally. And I didn't share a lot. I tended to keep it all in and try and protect my family from what I was going through. And I know that that's a mistake, but at the time I felt like I was protecting them.
And I want to come back to that, but I want you to try and explain to our audience what it was like attending that fire. Was it a different fire? I mean, you've been a fiery for how many years at that point in time?
At that point, 18.
So you're no shrinking violet. You've been and attended and seen so many different things.
Yeah, this was very different. I've been privileged to save lives, and unfortunately also I've been in the presence, but a privilege to be with people when they've lost their life. I find that an honour. Okay, but on this occasion, this fire was different to anything I've ever been to. It was like Armageddon is the best way to describe it. It was flames, the intensity of the flames that hit you felt like you were burning. It was incredible. And when we turned into the laneway to go and fight the fire, the heat that came through the windshield felt like it was an inferno, really, and it was just that. And then there were explosions of the chemicals were flying over us, missiles. But we accept we've got a dangerous job and we put ourselves in harm's way. That's fine. But this one was a little bit different because we didn't actually know what was in there. And I didn't actually find out the full picture of what was in there until the following day. So a shift and a half, really, until I worked out that, wow, this is what I've been fighting. And sometimes in BA, sometimes in like a P2 mask. And it turns out that I absorbed and inhaled and ingested a lot of harmful chemicals those days.
Some of which were, what sort of chemicals were they?
Well, that's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is that I may never know.
Wow.
There was no real forensic analysis done of the site for many reasons. Some of them I won't talk about today. Yeah, but that was something that caused me a lot of angst internally. Why haven't we really investigated this for all of our helps and the local people as well, not just firefighters attending, but the local people that were have suffered health issues from the fire since afterwards. Yeah.
So that happened back in 2018. You fought the fire for 2 whole days.
Yeah, the fire burnt for a week, and I was there during the really intense fire, if that makes sense. And I was there for 10 hours on the first night and then 14 hours on the second night. And we were basically at the coalface, at the front, fighting that fire. And an aerial appliance is an appliance that goes above the fire. So we were in a really poor spot. It was a wind that was coming across and into us. So any time the inversion layer dropped, which is quite often the fire will go up and away, but when the inversion layer drops, it drops on top of you and we're right in the plume. So we're in a really difficult spot, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes you get dealt poor cards, and we were that day, Kai and myself. Yeah. So
I'm going to ask you a silly question. Don't we have enough equipment as fireys to be able to compensate for or prevent that sort of thing from happening?
We do, but this was a job that caught, I'd say, our senior management off guard a little bit, and it shouldn't, but it did. We ran out of breathing apparatus at that fire. We ran out of a lot of things. We struggled to detect the air around us to see if it was safe for us to be in, and lots of different things may have happened that day that potentially shouldn't have happened. But I know that brigades learnt a lot from what happened to us on those days, and hopefully it never happens again. It doesn't help us. So, yeah, but coming out of that fire, a lot of us that got injured, we were really passionate about pushing for that change. And it's been implemented somewhat, but not entirely.
So 2018, you fought this fire. Then what started happening? Did you go back to work?
Oh, yeah, I did. I stayed at work, but immediately I had intense headaches. I had, I don't know if you've ever done this. You ever put your mouth on a 9-volt battery on the terminal?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we've all done it, silly kids. That's the taste that was in my mouth for 7 weeks after the fire. And I had this really strong metallic smell on me the whole time. I could shower as much as I wanted. And Nance just said to me, you stink of like some sort of chemical or of smoke. And
Nance, your partner?
Yeah, Nance, my partner, and my wife. And so the headaches were incredibly intense, and I was vomiting. I remember playing Duplo with my Ziggy, was 2 at the time, and I was on the ground, and one of the things I started struggling with was bending over or being prone or being on the ground or moving around. I started to really struggle with movement, and I just vomit out of the blue. I had this nausea in the background and this unsteadiness and intense headaches, but then I vomited on several occasions. Blanking out became common. I was at the park with him and I'd just be on the ground, and then mums and dads were picking me up off the ground, and I remember at times Ziggy was crying and he was on top of me, but I didn't know. So those things start to eat away at you a little bit about you're responsible for your children, and when these things start to happen, you feel like you're letting them down a little bit, so that creates a bit of anxiety, and that didn't improve for a long, long time. Actually, it got worse, and then I was hiding it a lot from a lot of people. I wasn't sharing that with my loved ones, my family and my close friends. I was telling some close friends at work, like confiding in them, like, Kai, how do you feel? And he said, I feel shit. Like, these headaches are intense. I said, me too. So don't worry, I shake. That's fairly normal for me. I've got a bit of a nervous system dysfunction. But anyway, about a week and a half after the fire, I said to Kai, we need to go to the BMO, the Brigade Medical Officer, and we need to start reporting this. Something's wrong. Because we wear helmets at fires, obviously, and BA over our shoulders. So quite often we develop headaches at fires. And so I just put it down to that. But it didn't go away, and relentlessly didn't go away ever. And today I still live with headaches and like a car sickness. You know, at the early stages of car sickness.
Sickness, yeah.
That's what I have every day.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that was something that just ate away at me, I guess, my mental state over a long period of time until I broke. 18 months, I think it took, of me not being completely honest with people around me. I was trying to keep my job because I knew I was desperate to keep my job as a firefighter. I loved my job, to help people and to go to work every day and feel like you've got a purpose. And the way my family would look at me when I went to work, and then when I came home, I didn't want to lose it, you know. And then I actually passed out in the gym at the fire station. I was walking only on a treadmill. The crew were doing a circuit, and you know what I used to be like. I used to
Very fit.
I used to lead the way. Yep. I couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't, but I wanted to be there with them, so I just walked on the treadmill. And even walking on the treadmill was too much, and I blinked out. And I hit the deck once. They all came over to me and said, JD, you all right? And I came to and then got back up and said, yep, go back to your workout, and started walking on the treadmill again, and then bang, straight back down again. And the second time I thought I broke my wrist and I hit my head, and I walked out and I got really emotional. You know, they didn't see it because I felt like I was a bit of a leader at the fire station, senior firefighter. And
you didn't want them to see you vulnerable or weak, right?
Yeah, and I see that as that was something that probably has. I grew up early when my father died, and I saw myself as a leader in the household, and then I became a leader in every sporting team I ever was in. Then I became a leader at the fire station. So you feel like you don't want to show these people vulnerability because you're their leader, but it's actually the opposite. You have to share vulnerability, and I know that now, and to ask for vulnerability in return. Yeah, I was very in tune with my crew, and if they were struggling with anything, but I was very unaware, or very unkind to myself, I might say. Yeah. They
say the strongest people fall the hardest, right?
Oh yes, I really believe that. I feel like it probably takes longer for you to crack, but when you crack hard, and I cracked hard. I'll never forget it. The moment I cracked, I was in bed with Nance. It was the middle of the night. I hadn't slept for God knows how long because of my headaches and nausea, and I would go for long walks. It was in COVID. It was during COVID actually when this happened, and I would get up and walk in the middle of the night. I'd just get out of the house and walk, and it was bucketing rain this night. And Nance just grabbed me. She didn't usually grab me. She grabbed me and said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going for a walk, baby," and I didn't want to really bother her. And she said, "You're not going outside, no way." So I said, "I'll go and have a bath." And she said, no, just stay. And for some reason, she wouldn't take no for an answer. She wanted to know how I was. And it's usually one or two questions. One might just crack the surface, but two or three questions. And I didn't answer, I just cried. And I cried for, it felt like an eternity, but it wouldn't have been. It would have been maybe 10, 20 minutes, I don't know. And she held me, and it's all I needed. I needed her to hold me, and then from that, I got really honest with her about how I was struggling and how I felt like I was not the dad I wanted to be, not the husband I wanted to be, not the colleague I wanted to be, not the friend I wanted to be. I felt like I was a shadow of my former self. And I'd lost my spark, you know. Any social occasion I was avoiding because of my nausea, laughing, funnily enough, was a kryptonite for me because it would just force my headaches to get really intense, and I would run out of a birthday party and vomit.
My God.
Yeah, and just, it would come out of the blue. I'd be ordering a coffee at a cafe and then I'm across the road in the bushes vomiting, you know. So I started, when I spoke to Nance in depth about it, it was like this massive weight came off my shoulders, and that's when it changed, big change for the better.
And, you know, it's so huge because what you said, you know, you just needed to be held. You just needed to cry.
Yeah.
It felt like an eternity. It probably wasn't. It was just that men don't cry, which we know, but the power that came from that meant that your life started shifting, right?
It was restorative right then, right there. I remember the time, there's moments in time along my journey which just felt like a massive burden had been lifted. When I reached out for actual clinical help, massive burden. I hadn't even seen anyone yet, but I'd reached out. That's a huge burden. Okay, I've done that. Okay, and then I can start to build that relationship. Then I actually enrolled myself into a PTSD course in Geelong, at Geelong Clinic, and that's for emergency service workers and war veterans. And that was wonderful. I just thought, I'm going to break this cycle. I need to, and it would nourish me. I thought it would nourish me. I couldn't have known how much it would nourish me because I was part of a team again. There were 8 of us all together, a cohort of people that were struggling for all sorts of different reasons, Micah paramedics, people that have served in Afghanistan and Iraq and seen horrible things that I can only imagine. But all of us had a purpose to be there, police officers, ambulance, and being part of a team, it's where I thrive, you know, and I found that I could say things and they could relate, or they could say things and I could relate. So you'd actually learn by just being in association with these people, and that was like a massive energy for me to do that. And that was a long time we were there, 12 weeks I think it was.
But I would say, yes, it's a team, but it was a team with such authenticity.
Oh, incredible.
All of the layers are gone.
Yeah.
So it was probably the most meaningful team to have been a part of.
Incredible. And when you can see that you're helping other people, that's medicine. It really is. I would walk away from some days on the course, I remember thinking, I really helped Ben today, okay, by accident. So I felt really, really amazingly happy about that, which helped me by proxy, you know. And I'm sure, I've spoken to Ben since, he's the same, Micah paramedic. He's seen so much, you know. And then Sean and Renee, the whole crew, we became really tight. And to this day, we still message each other and just say, how are you travelling? Yeah, it's really nice.
And it's a genuine relationship. So
it is.
As a consequence of, you know, this tragedy, you've started a new program called You Are Warrior.
Yeah.
Talk us through what that is.
Wow, it took quite a while.
Well, nothing good comes easy, you know.
It's actually when the genesis of You Are Warrior happened on the course. I had an amazing mentor named Andre, an Italian guy, and very hard to understand sometimes, but his connection with me was incredible. He's a somatic psychotherapist, so very in touch. I've learnt that I'm very tactile and very visual. So when I have conversations, I need them to be very equal and two-way, and I work best that way with a counsellor. So he cut through and helped me to understand that my headaches, all my pain had a purpose. And then he started talking to me about what's next. Maybe I don't get back to the fire brigade. And at that point I was desperate still to get back, but he just started planting the seed. If you don't get back, what's JD? What do you do next, JD? And over a period of time I just thought it has to be something with purpose, has to be something that helps someone. And so I started thinking about talks, mental health talks, and how I maybe could share a bit of my story and my vulnerability, and that might help some people. And so I'd go away and it took quite a long time. That was quite a few years ago. And over time I've always done this. I've always had ideas, and I just get the phone out and I start taking notes, and then all those notes are all over the place. And then I brought them all together into what is my talk about. And You Are Warrior, I think, is beautiful. It's not the masculine warrior we've all got a masculine warrior inside that will fight for anything that you feel you have to fight for. But when I talk about You Are Warrior, it's the kind, gentle warrior that we've all got as well, that we have to acknowledge. And when your body's talking to you, you have to listen. And that's something that I wasn't great at, but I am now. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So You Are Warrior is good for which genre?
Well, I started out thinking about that teenage cohort, that this world is a confusing place, and you've got children, I've got children, and you see them really battle, especially through COVID. I thought that year 9, year 10 cohort, I thought that's where I can really help.
Make a difference.
Make a difference. But then mental health doesn't belong to that group alone. And then I started falling into some adolescent groups with the Lord Summers Camp. They invited me along, and I've done some talks with them, and I thought I was shit, the first one, honestly. But they loved it, and they all come up to me afterwards. I hung around for half an hour. I had people coming up to me and sharing some massive vulnerability, and they booked me for 4 more talks after that, and I've done work with them since. And then I've always lived in sporting clubs, and I really think that sporting clubs are a lifeblood of our whole society. They really are. Every walk of life comes to one place where they feel safe. They wouldn't normally intermingle and meet each other, and I think they're a beautiful part of our society. So I've started doing talks into sporting clubs. So yeah, if you're a sporting club that wants to put back into your people, then I'd love to come along and help you and just show everyone that mental health is everywhere, all the time, both yours and those around you. And it's not linear. We don't fly all the time. We don't struggle all the time. It's up and down. And for me, one thing I've learned, it's about managing moments. How do I manage this moment here and now? And if you win enough of those moments, and you know what helps you win, because everyone's different, I'll share what helped me. And it's just an invitation, Viv. I don't like pushing anything down anyone's throat.
You're not a salesman at all. You're not at all. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the way I like to frame it. I just say to people, this is an invitation into what happened to me and what worked for me. And then I'd like them to go and explore what works for them. It may be similar to what happened to me and what works for me, but it may be completely different. And then you start putting time into yourself. Yeah, your mental health self. Because physical you will not be strong without mental you. They go together. Yeah.
It's just a toolkit, isn't it, Jace? You know, at the end of the day, you pick which ones work for you.
Yeah, absolutely, Viv. And one thing I am very confident about, I'm not clinical because I don't have any qualifications, but being a firer, I think you're qualified to talk about teamwork and things like that, maybe mental health. I've unfortunately attended so many suicides throughout my career, and I've seen suicide from lots of different angles. I lost some friends when I was young to suicide. I'd hate to think there's people that have been to more suicides than me, but there are. Hundreds, over my career. And so that also has forced me into this area of helping people and letting them know there's always a way out. It's just having the bravery to find it, you know, because you don't often have logical thoughts when you're thinking like, I've been there. I had a time when I thought my family would be better off without me. And that's not the case. But in that moment, you think like that when you're really, really down and out. Yeah.
Well, Jason, you are a beautiful, gentle warrior. And, you know, I'm so privileged to be sitting here and listening to your story, but more so with the imploring of having other people identify with some of those moments where you're downtrodden, and we may not have faced such huge adversity. There's very few people who have been through what you've been through, but the connection of negativity and feeling helpless is the thing that actually binds us together. And thank you so much for being so courageous and to continue to do what you do. And if anybody has been listening or watching and has this resonated with you, and if it has, please reach out to You Are Warrior. And thank you so much, Jason, for being here and sharing
My pleasure. Lovely to see you again.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.